Welcome to another episode of Better Than Before Breast Cancer with the Breast Cancer Recovery Coach. I'm your host, Laura Lummer, and I love the show that I have here for you today because let me give you a little bit of background. When I first decided to be a coach for breast cancer survivors in the after treatment space, which is really where I started out, focusing on supporting women who had finished breast cancer treatment. And now I started doing that in 2017. So all these years later, I have a full spectrum of clients from people who are in treatment to those who've just finished, to those who've been out of treatment for several years, to those who are living with metastatic disease. I welcome everybody. But back at that time in 2017, the catalyst for me starting this business was that there was just such a tremendous lack of support. When I would Google and look for breast cancer recovery or something like that, virtually nothing came up. Here and there, I would find an organization that maybe they put on a live event that people could go to, or they did certain workshops and things like that throughout the year. But the only podcasts that I found were really medical, universities and medical podcasts that were talking about the medicinal side, the treatment side of breast cancer. And that's just not what I wanted. I wanted something personal. I wanted something that really spoke to what I went through and said, I get it. I know what you're going through. I can help, right? That was what was really important to me. I didn't want to reach people in a general sense. I wanted to connect with other women who had been through this experience and just lift them up. Just let them know they were not alone. They were not crazy. They were not the only ones. I just remember feeling so much frustration when I would go to my doctors and my oncologist and I would say, I'm going through this and this is happening and this isn't happening and I'm having all these hot flashes and I can't lose this weight. And I would hear, yeah, I don't ever hear that. That's probably not related to chemotherapy. And I thought, well, what is wrong with me? Why am I so broken? Apparently no one else goes through this stuff. Well, that was very wrong. And if you listen to this podcast, I'm sure you know that, and you're out there looking for something because you know that that's wrong as well. So since 2017, over these last few years, so what is that? 2017, 6 years now, coming up really quickly on 7 years, so 6.5 years. I have seen just an explosion of people populating this space, of serving people who finished breast cancer treatment, of recognizing the struggle that space is, especially that year to 3 years right after treatment. There's a long time and a lot of adjustments to make. But I see people coaching in this area, so many more coaches now, which is wonderful because everybody's got a different message and a different approach. So I think it's all great because my voice may not resonate with everyone. So I want I want everyone to be able to find someone who they resonate with, who they can get support with. There's just so much value in connecting with someone else who gets what you're going through and in being a part of a community who gets what you're going through. So important. And this podcast episode is no different. So one of the other things that I've seen happen that is beautiful are organizations and smaller nonprofits that have popped up that really address the person, right? Breast Cancer Angels, the Pink Fund, and Rebuild to Be, which you're going to hear about today, is another one of those organizations. And these people give directly to the woman who is struggling. That is something I think the general public just does not realize. Those of us who've been through this experience, we get it. We know the financial demands. We know the energy demands. We know the psychological, emotional, and physical impact of cancer and cancer treatment on us and on our loved ones and on our employment, on everything that happens in our lives. So I love seeing organizations that are made up of women who understand this experience and there's just something in their heart that says, I want to help other people in this space. And today you are going to hear from Ashley Melton Roth, and she is the CEO of Rebuild to Be. Let me tell you a little bit about Ashley and a little bit about this organization. So first of all, Ashley was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma in April of 2021. And after a lengthy treatment plan that included surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, she finally entered into post-treatment phase where the focus shifted from survival to how she could help other women from her own experience. Ashley knows the value because of that experience of both the physical fitness before, during, and after treatment, as well as the benefit of working on your mental well being during this difficult time. You're going to hear a lot of how she got that mental and emotional support. So, Ashley lives in Lake St. Louis, Missouri, with her husband, Ben, her two daughters, Katie and Claire, her two bonus kids, Alex and Cece, and her pit terrier mix, Melba, as in Melba Toast. She is the CEO of Rebuild a Bee. This is a nonprofit organization. And in the interview you're going to hear with Ashley, where she tells you about what services Rebuild a Bee give to women who have had a diagnosis of any kind of cancer, not just breast cancer, but any kind of cancer. And the team, her whole C-suite team for Rebuild a Bee, is comprised of women who are cancer survivors of all different types of cancer, which I think is amazing. So this organization is put together by a group of women who are impacted by cancer, who want to help other women who are impacted by cancer to live more complete, confident, and joyful lives after a cancer diagnosis. As cancer survivors, they know the toll that surgery, treatment, appointments, and scans can take on women. But they also know that when you finish active treatment, there's an immense feeling of accomplishment. Rebuild a Bee provides funding for cancer survivors and thrivers to receive mental and physical health resources to improve their well-being after a diagnosis. So I don't want to put you off any longer from hearing this amazing woman talk about her own experience and this wonderful organization, but I do want to give you an update before we jump into the interview. You'll hear Ashley talk about getting the official nonprofit designation in this interview. And since we recorded it, I'm happy to say that they have received the official nonprofit status. So Rebuild a Bee is an official nonprofit organization by the time you hear this show. So without any further delay, welcome Ashley Melton Roth. Hey, Ashley, welcome to Better Than Before Breast Cancer podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm really excited. So I talked in the intro about you and your organization, but I just want everybody to get to meet you and hear your story. So I'm going to give you the reins, and I would just love to hear, like, what is your story? What brought you into the cancer world, and what brought you into starting this amazing organization?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm Ashley Rath-Melton. I'm the founder of Rebuild a Bitch. I was actually diagnosed with stage 2 invasive ductal carcinoma on April 1st of 2021. And I got, put through the ringer, right? The 3 surgeries, 16 rounds of chemo, 20 rounds of radiation. I'm on exemestane as my estrogen suppressant. So, full blown menopause. I got everything. So,
Just love
and
going into menopause in one day. Isn't that the greatest?
fantastic. Like 10 years too early. It's so fun.
Yeah. Screw
So
perimenopause. We'll just do it all at once.
no, let's go right for it. Go big or go home, right? So,
Yeah.
um, so early in my chemo journey, right, I felt it definitely felt very like isolated, right? And so I started to do a little bit of research on nonprofits, and at the time I was really big into CrossFit, and so my CrossFit community, um, you know, CrossFit gyms are all kind of interconnected, and you learn a little bit. But I learned about an organization that I joined. I won't say the name, but it was a great fitness oriented nonprofit, and through that, I kind of found like my community, right? And that organization offered kind of like daily workouts. They offered a mental health coach as part of our services there, and so that's kind of where I learned that. Not only was like fitness a really big part of my journey, but dealing with like the mental aspect of the cancer diagnosis was really, it became more apparent that like treatment was treatment. And at some point treatment is over and you do all of the countdowns and you ring the bell and everybody's cheering you on. And then when you're done with active treatment, you're just kind of like, what now? Right. And I just, they toss you, they don't toss you out, right? Like, you go in and they're like, okay, we'll see you every 3 months, 4 months, whatever that looks like. But I think that was the time that I finished the active treatment was the time I felt really lost, if you
Yeah.
will, right?
Right.
Um, and so thankfully, I had this community that I had already been, working with, and access to this mental performance coach. And so we did a lot of sessions where, like, every other Sunday, we would get together and just kind of talk and process our feelings together and heal together. And so it really helped, right? So that organization, there were women who had been through it, a couple years prior to me. So they were kind of like mentors, to the women who were in the thick of it. And then I got to help the women that came after me. And so it was very healing in that, like, they helped me heal and then I helped others heal. And then we all just, I don't know, it felt like really positive to help other people as part of my journey.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's so amazing, right? It's the community. And I think that's such an important point to make because too many women think they have to go it alone. And
mhm,
it's freaking hard, right?
yeah,
In that place where you get the release and after you ring the bell. I always liken that to when you have a baby, right? And
yeah,
everybody's all like taking care of you and showing up when you're pregnant and getting you all the things. And then you're left with a screaming baby that won't sleep and you have no idea what the hell to do. And everybody's like, okay, have fun, see ya. Right?
you walk out of the hospital and you're like, here's your baby. And you're like, I don't know how to take care of a baby.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what happens, right? We come out of breast cancer treatment, we're like, whoa, now we get a step out of survival. And we're like, what the hell just happened here? And
Yeah,
what am I supposed to do? And what's my life supposed to look like? And it's a very different experience, right? And no one can imagine unless they've been there. But
yeah,
the support and connecting, it's almost like an instant connection, right? When you meet someone else who's been through that
mhm,
experience, you're like, I see you, I get
yeah.
you.
And they get it. And no matter what, they get it. And it's just, I don't think that I realized, right, at the time, how much trauma, and that I can't, like, it is so much trauma and it's so much to process. And again, thankfully I had access to this mental performance coach. She's not a therapist, right? I sought out a therapist because I knew that that's what I needed. But um just getting that process going with her, was it just really helped. And so that's kind of what brought us to Rebuild a Bitch, because unfortunately that organization dissolved earlier this year. Um, but I just knew, and the other women who are part of the organization, we knew how much benefit and how much healing we got from that process. So we really just wanted to try and find a way to help other women have that experience.
Yeah. So you have a team. Tell me a little bit about your team and what you guys decided to do.
Yeah. So like, as I mentioned, we had a community as part of this other nonprofit, and we call each other our boob sisters, right? So I think that's a fairly common term
I
among
love it.
women who've had breast cancer. But so it's myself, and there are three women from that organization. There's Erin, Carrie, and Latoya. And then I had a woman who I worked with, in a past life. I was a wedding planner. So I had a woman
Nice.
that I was friends with back in the day. I was actually on another nonprofit board with her, and she does events, and she actually had ovarian cancer. So it was kind of important to us, um, because we know that nonprofits may not always be out, for the best interest of everybody involved. It was important to us to have women who had cancer as part of our board. It
Yeah.
just, our kind of tagline is women impacted by cancer, helping women impacted by cancer. And so there's something, like, we know that we've been through it. We know what it's like. We don't want to take advantage of anybody, I guess, in the long run. Like, we want to do what's best. We've been there. We just want to support women as best as we can. So, um,
Yeah.
so
And you
that's
know
kind
what? I think that's such an important thing because, I mean, I think breast cancer gets more money than probably any other
of,
cancer as far as public support and donations. And a tremendous amount of that goes to research, which is wonderful. But for those of us who are in it, unless you're in it or gone through something like that, people don't really realize
mhm,
them. incredible impact it has on your life, right?
Yeah.
Do you have the ability to work? How do you feel? Can you work? Can you take care of your family? And people also think, well, you have insurance, so good thing. And you have no idea how much insurance doesn't cover, how much you have to fight with insurance. So what I love about organizations like yours is that it really gets to the heart of saying, I know what you're going through.
Mhm.
And we could put money into research, and research is wonderful, that you do something that directly has an impact. Like, like this woman is getting this and she gets this support, and you know that it's targeting that individual and supporting her, which I love. I think that's
Mhm.
just it's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, the primary mission of our nonprofit, Rebuild a Bitch, is to, provide scholarship and funding for women to receive mental and physical health resources. Right now we are just focused on the mental health side of things because that is definitely in our mind, and based on what we went through, first and foremost, that was like the hardest part. And so that's what we wanted to focus on first. We kind of told ourselves, like, let's pick one thing and get good at that, right? Like just one thing. And if we can help just one woman, then we succeeded. So
Yeah.
that's, we started in April and it's so very new and we don't know what we're doing, but
I love it.
we go. And it was also really important to us, because Anne Marie, who's on our board, she's the one that has had ovarian cancer. She, we went out for coffee a few weeks ago and she was telling me that there's just not really much for ovarian cancer survivors because the survival rates aren't great. The community's not very big. It's less common than breast cancer, right? So she didn't have any support groups and she didn't have anything like this that she could go to. And so um, we just really wanted to create something that could serve all women with any types of cancer, not just breast cancer. And so, because again, breast cancer is so common, like you said, it gets the most money, it gets the most attention, it overshadows some of the others, but all of those women battling colon cancer and just everything else, like they deserve the same support, right? The
Mhm.
same, they're going through chemo and they're losing their hair and and radiation and just all of the things, the same things that we went through. Um,
Absolutely.
and so it's just important that we really want to serve all women impacted by cancer.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it has a huge impact. So one of the organizations, which is actually the first one that I found when I was originally diagnosed in 2011, is at the a local hospital here, cancer center, and it's a support group, a mentor group for breast and gynecological cancer, and it's such an interesting combination because with ovarian cancer there's a huge impact still on the whole mindset around femininity, right? Like we go through with our breasts and all, but you can't see theirs,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it is different. And I think that it's really important to acknowledge that. And it isn't like one cancer is better or less
Mm-hmm.
horrible than some other kind of cancer, right?
Yeah.
And I also love you point out it's like here you are, a CrossFitter, right? And people always think that it's diet and nutrition is the hard part. That is not the hard part,
Mm-mm. No,
right?
I worked out all through chemo. Like I had no, um, at one point I got a blood clot, and that was hard. Um,
Yeah.
but but outside of like the deconditioning of the heart that kind of happens as you get really into the chemo,
Uh-huh.
I became my heart rate was really elevated, but I moved almost every day.
Yeah.
It just made me
Awesome.
feel better. So I knew from my end, like I had the fitness part covered, right? Like I knew that I was going to move and I was going to be active. Um, and I was able, thankfully, but it's just when it was done, I just feel like I sunk. Like my heart, like my mind kind of sunk a little bit. And ironically enough, as part of this group that we used to be involved with, there was a, a girl who was maybe about a year ahead of me. And we were friends and she, I remember her telling me, I finished active treatment at the end of 2021. And I remember her telling me 2022 is going to suck. And
Oh,
she was like, she was like, she told me that she spent the first year right after active treatment, trying to be as normal as possible. She was going out. She was probably drinking too much. She was just like, go, 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 go. She was like, I'm living, I'm living, I'm living. But inside, she was really struggling. And I went through last year and I felt that so hard. Like it was not a great year. You're trying to get back to some normalcy, but there's just not a normal anymore. It's yeah.
You can't undo that traumatic experience. See, there's no, it is like a before and after, like now how everybody refers to before COVID and after COVID, right? For the lockdowns and after lockdowns. Like things are different. And before breast cancer and after breast cancer, it's not like, oh, I got the flu and let's just go back to normal. Like
Hmm.
so many things change. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
And interesting that mentor program that I've always been a part of, you can't go through the training until you've been at least 1 year out of treatment because
Mm.
they know like the powerful emotional impact. And so many women sink into depression right
Mm.
after that when they get out of treatment and just really feel abandoned. They're very afraid, like as if they lost that lifeline. I think we don't realize how safe we feel when we're getting constant blood work and seeing the doctor regularly. And even though the treatments may suck that we're going through, somebody who knows what they're doing is watching us, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then let us go, and all the thoughts start to come in. And yeah, and it can
Yeah.
be a dark, big, dark rabbit hole.
Yeah, I know and people talk about it all the time, right? Like people show up when you're going through chemo and they show up and they cheer you on and then the support, it's probably, it's still in the background. And I'm sure if I were to reach out, people would still jump in and do whatever I needed. Um, but that support kind of subsides and then you're kind of left, you're left to get back to your life and get back to what's normal. And um but I don't think people understand like the fear, right? The fear that we live with on a daily basis, and any ache and pain and headaches, and it's unfortunate because a lot of the medicine that we have to take causes all of the symptoms that we should be on the lookout for. And
Yeah,
so it's just a
absolutely.
like battle in your brain of like, is this something bad or is it just a headache? And it's hard because people just don't get that part, and it's and it is trauma, it's PTSD, and it's
100%. Yeah.
and I we know that like like a mental health coach or in like a mental support resource like yourself, like it's not an end all be all, right? It's not therapy. It's I found that a lot of it for me, what really helped was just trying to focus on something positive that day, right? What are three small wins in the day? And that could be like, I did the laundry or like I went for a walk and just like what is a small win? And as you start to like reframe your experience and like shift your mindset a little bit, it gradually gets to become more positive, right? So
Yes.
um
Yeah. And that's such an important point. It's like take one day at a time,
mhm,
right? Because the mind gets so crazy with just going so far forward in life and imagining horrible scenarios around cancer or thinking about all the things you won't be able to do, can't do, it's never going to change. And we just need to just do today, right?
mhm,
And learn how to manage your mind and bring it back to just to today. Like, how do you want to feel today? How do you want to live today? What do you want to enjoy today? Absolutely. And take it in these small steps that it is incredibly important. Yeah, I love that.
yeah.
So tell me how your organization works. Let's tell everybody like what do you do? How
Yep.
do people access you? And tell me also about your coaches. Like you decided on this team of
Yeah.
coaches. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that too.
You're one of them. Yeah. So how it works is, and again, we're still new. Like I said, we started in April. Our 501(c)(3s with the IRS, right? We're waiting to get their feedback and hear how that goes. But our website is rebuildab.org. We found out that Rebuild a Bitch is just not very social media friendly, but we still
Yeah,
stand
you
by
could get shut down.
we did change the domain to rebuildab.org.
Okay.
Anyone at all right? Anybody at any stage, any woman, right, in any stage of a cancer journey, whether they're in the middle of it, outside of it, a year out, metastatic, whatever it is, anybody can apply. Anybody is welcome. There's an application process on our website. We just ask a few questions about, when they were diagnosed, how far out, are they from active treatment? And we kind of do like a scoring system, right? We want to prioritize the people who are in that zone where you're like you just finished active treatment, right? And we also are we want to support the women who financially might need it more too, right? So we ask a few questions, we try to just get as much information as we can on our application, in order for us to kind of like, decide who we need to serve first. And so, as a board, we look at all of our applicants, we decide what we can fund. Our funding right now is just up to $500 toward a mental health provider, of some sort, right? And it's actually, we say that we've toyed with the idea of like, should we help support like therapy visits, right? Because even those aren't really covered under insurance either a lot of the time. So, but what we wanted to do was, kind of stay outside of that, and lean towards like kind of cancer life coaches, right? Like focus on how can we focus on the present and, learn to live a little bit more joyful and positively and, a fulfilled life, if you will, I guess. And so, we provide up to $500. We provide that money directly to the people who are providing the service versus to the woman herself, right? Okay. And yeah, right now our goal is the application process is open year round. We are looking to just kind of find some standardization, if you will, as far as like when we select people for scholarships. And so we're going to do that on a quarterly basis, is what we decided. So, yeah, open to anyone. And then every quarter we'll just see how much funding we've, brought in and see how many women we can support up to that $500 limit and, take it from there. And, right now it's very small, right? We, like I said, it's still just getting started. It's infancy stages. And, at minimum, we'll be able to help a few women this year. So that'll feel good. So.
Well, let's talk about that a little, because anytime we hear about a nonprofit, we've got two sides to that. The one side is for people who need the financial support, and for others who want to contribute the financial support to something that's near and dear to their heart. So for anybody who hears this, can they make donations? Can they put money out there to support a scholarship? What can they do to help support such a noble cause?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I would direct everybody to the website, right? We've got a donate button right there on the homepage on every page. Right now, actually, you can find us. It's just Rebuild a Bee on Instagram and Facebook. Just for like the next day, there's a little touchstone crystal fundraiser that we're doing. And so
what's that about?
It's a friend of a friend, another boob sister, if you will. Her friend does touchstone jewelry, and if somebody buys a piece of jewelry, I actually bought my little ribbon necklace from there, and 40% of those profits will go towards Rebuild a Bitch. So,
awesome.
Just kind of a one fundraiser for this month. But yeah, otherwise everything is online. rebuildabee.org/donate gets you right there, and we'll happily take any and all. However, with the caveat, right, that right now our 501c3 status is pending. So we those donations right now are not tax exempt, but upon that 501c3 status, that would be retroactive. So
it would be retroactive. Okay, so eventually it will be.
Eventually
I mean, it's just
we'll
government red tape, right? Yeah. So they can donate and still be able to use it. So tell us about your coaches. So you got a team of coaches. How did you decide, and what do they offer to people?
Yeah, so I mean, we and as you know, right, we talked several weeks ago, but we had one initial coach that we were going to work with. She decided to take some time to take care of herself and her son. So that kind of set us out on a journey, right, to find some additional coaches. We realized that having one Sorry, the sun is a little bright here.
I know your lighting is just like you got all kinds of looks going on
Over.
here.
We realized that having multiple coaches would actually be a better idea, right? And also to give people options, right? We've got four coaches, yourself. I don't know if can I say the names of
Sure, go
everybody?
ahead. Yeah, yeah.
There's yourself. There's Kathy Washburn. There is Ann Ramsdell, and there is Melissa Eppert coaching. And so there are variations of cost and offerings. And so before we were working with someone who was only going to have group programs, and that's great, but maybe programs not for everybody, right? So
Right.
so now we have a mix of coaches who offer both group programs and one-on-one sessions. And so that way, again, some people thrive in group. I thrive in a group setting, right? But some people just want to talk one-on-one to somebody. So now we have options.
Yeah, which is awesome. And, it's an important point because I offer both. I have group and private coaching. And then I also have like do it yourself. And then while you're doing the do it yourself, you can come into the group coaching. And
Mhm.
I find a lot of times the group coaching is nice because sometimes people don't realize what it is that they're trying to overcome until they hear someone else say it.
Yeah, that's a good
They
point.
hear someone else get coached, like, oh my God, that happens to me too. Way too often, we judge ourselves and think we're crazy or what we're thinking is silly or stupid or something. And then we hear, oh my gosh, like everybody goes through this? What?
Yeah,
So group can be really helpful. And then also group can help you notice when there is something deeper. And then a lot of times, so many of my group members also do private coaching sessions with me because something
mhm.
will come up and they're like, okay, I want to talk in more detail about something that may be intimate. And then also, I think it's important to point out with coaching, it's not always that something has to be wrong. It's
Mhm.
just that maybe you want to create something in your life, right? Maybe
Yeah,
you're thinking like, you know what? I just got through this. And like you and your team, you're like, I want to do something.
yeah,
And when we want to do something, imposter syndrome kicks in, self-doubt kicks in. Am I crazy to think I could
yeah,
do this kicks in? And so a lot of times reaching out to a coach just because you want to create a different life. It doesn't have to be something's wrong, something's broken.
mm,
It's just that, hey, everybody needs support, right?
yeah.
And just like everybody should be exercising on a regular basis,
Hmm.
I believe everyone should be getting mental and emotional support in whatever you need
I
all the
could
time.
agree more. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like an invisible thing that not everybody gets to see, and I think even just like I love that you offer both, right? And because there is such a sense of like belonging and like finding your people and just feeling like you're just with people who get it, that you just sometimes it's just nice to be in the presence, even if you're there in a group setting and you don't even say anything, you're just listening. I think you
Yeah,
still get a lot out of it. I just
absolutely.
remember when we were doing kind of every other week session, sometimes we'd have, upwards of 15 women get on a Zoom call, and I was like bald and I was like, I'm fine with this. Like it was hot, it was summer here in St. Louis and it's so humid, and I didn't do anything. I just wore my bald head everywhere. And I remember being on a call with a group of women, and one of them was newly bald, right? And I think she felt comfortable to take her hat off, and I was like, yeah, just stop. Like let's be bald together. It's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And I also love too, people who come while they're in treatment or they're newly out of treatment, and then we see them show up for every call, and every call is like, oh God, look how much hair you have. Look at how fast your
Yeah,
hair's growing. We're
it's
gonna
fun.
see them evolve in that healing process. Yeah.
And there's
And
so
it's
many
super
women that I
encouraging.
met through that experience that like we're all in like similar hair growth phase, and some people got haircuts and some people powered through it, and it's always just fun to like it's a really it's just a really good bonding experience. But then we also respect the women that might want to have those individual conversations too, because I think those are equally as important. So um
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
And some people have things that are really tailored to their life. Like they want to speak
Mhm.
about something very specific to their life. And so they want to have just that one-on-one attention, which is really lovely. And I
Yeah.
think it's important to point out too that there's a lot of times this misunderstanding about group coaching that it's like,
Hmm.
oh, I'm just going to go there and people are going to complain about cancer.
Yeah.
Right. And this is not a complaint about cancer. This is, let's talk about the thoughts that are stopping you from living the life you want to live. And let's
Hmm.
figure out how to get there, right? How do we bring in more joy? How do you love yourself more? And it isn't the fixation on what went wrong as much as it is, let's create something that feels good and right for you, right? So it's a
Yeah,
really positive environment. And are all of the coaches on your team, are they all cancer survivors of some kind?
they are, which I also really love. And I don't know, there's something just really fulfilling and like it fills my heart even just knowing that like there are so many people that are taking a cancer diagnosis and making something positive out of it. And I love what you said about helping people find like, what they want to do next in their life after this. And like I feel very strongly that, I was healthy. I'd been doing CrossFit for so long and I was eating well and life was good, right? And um, but following that diagnosis, I just couldn't make any sense of it, right? For a long time. And now I'm just like, I'm here to help people, right? Like that's why this happened. That is the only that is the only thing I can find out of it that makes sense is that this happened so that you can help other people. So I love that like that's part of like what you offer, right? Is encouraging people to like seek out what find your joy, find your passion, right? Like I think that's so important.
Yeah.
Especially I think I love my like full-time job, right? But it doesn't fill my soul like helping people does, So
Right. I know 100% what you're talking about. Yeah. And I always say, like, what I do is a part of my healing. Because
hmm.
when we support each other, it's truly a gift. It's an honor to be able to work with people and see them break through the limiting things that our freaking human brains do to us and
Yeah.
start to take control of that and figure out I'm important, I'm worthy, I deserve it, I get to be
Hmm.
happy, I deserve to be happy, and to watch people step into that and step out of this conditioning. Why do we condition our women in this society to be so hard on themselves,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think to just be in communities of people who really want you to be happy and want you to succeed
Yeah.
and just want you to have everything, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. Yeah.
And I think that what stands out to me is I think one of the biggest things I got out of coaching is like we as women, right? We're a lot of times the caretakers. We just do and we pile on our plate and we pile on our plate and it can be overwhelming and stressful. And I think one of the biggest takeaways I got when I was going through coaching is just taking the time for yourself, right? Not everybody does that. And especially as women, we're really bad at that sometimes.
Really bad.
And I do that so much now, right?
Awesome.
And I got that out of coaching where you're just like, you have to make time for yourself and you
You
have
have
to
to.
make time for the things that make you happy. Um, so,
100%. Yeah. And it's funny, I had a group call this morning, and this was one of the things we talked about is how do you make time to support yourself in whatever it is that you're going through? And
mhm.
it's interesting because it's a learning experience, even when you feel resistance come up at the idea of creating time for you,
Yeah.
right? And you think like, and I'll tell my clients, I'm like, if you open my weekly calendar, you see my yoga classes, my spin classes, my beach walks, all that gets written in first because my health is the priority, my peace of mind and living the way I want to live in between my ears. This is the priority. And that's a commitment to me. And I can remember a time in my life when I was like, oh, I'll put my workouts on the calendar, but then someone else needed something or wanted something, and the workout was the first thing to go. No more, right?
Mm-mm.
It's like, oh, sorry, I'm walking on the beach during that time, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
just how it is. No, but I mean, I don't even need to explain. It's like, nope, sorry, that hour is booked. What else can we do, right?
Yeah.
And that in itself can take months, if not longer, for someone to embrace, for them
Yeah.
to realize, oh, wow, I can just have that time for myself because they go into, isn't that lazy? Isn't that selfish? How can I do nothing? Right? Where it's like, this is like serving your soul and supporting your health is never doing nothing.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I think of is like when I think about part of the reason we started Rebuild a Bitch is, how cool would it be if we can get more women to just do that, right? To just focus on taking care of themselves and focus on living just like more joyful lives. I think it even says on our website, like, um, we want to help women unleash their inner bad bitch, right? And so I think
Yeah.
there's like really big sense of accomplishment, right? When you finish chemo and when you finish these treatments and you're just
Mhm.
like, wow, I did that. But like, what else can you do with your life, right? Like you can do so much more, and just empowering women to get the mental support that they need. It just unleashes that in them, and just, go live your life,
Absolutely.
right? And go be happy, go do big things. So
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
hope.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. So
Mhm.
I will put the links to everything, the website, the fundraiser, the Instagram, the Facebook, everything's going to be in there. So people can find you so they know if they know they could use some financial support, getting the emotional mental health that they seek out, they can come to you. If you are in the position where you can support that so that other women can get the support and help they need, they can come and find you
Yeah.
and just follow you guys because it's inspiring to see all of you on your social media and see your workouts. And damn, you're strong, you know?
I like to lift weights. Well, it's funny
You
because
lift some heavy weights.
yeah, well, being in menopause, I just picked up a book about, how to combat some of those side effects, and lifting heavy weights is a very important part of that.
It absolutely is. And strength training, strength and conditioning was always like my most favorite, right? And sadly, like I belonged to a strength and conditioning gym. And during the lockdowns, they moved to Fort Lauderdale. And I was like, oh, because there aren't a lot. And there's CrossFit is different than this was just like really just heavy lifting, right?
So,
And there's something about making your body strong. And when you do something and your body starts feeling stronger, you're mentally stronger. It
mhm.
changes, it shifts. I think
Yeah.
one of the biggest examples, my youngest sister, who she's 9 years younger than me, and our dad was very sick. He had a lot of metabolic conditions and type 2 diabetes and all kinds of stuff. And she was inspired to start jujitsu. And she was like, I
Mhm.
don't want to end up like dad. I want to take care of myself. I want to exercise. And she just used to be this person who was like, okay, it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Even though it's not fine, it's fine. And she started doing jujitsu and she was like, no, that shit is not fine anymore. Right. And it's just like a change. We can go both ways. We can build emotional strength that makes us want to have a stronger body. We can
Mhm.
start in making our body strong. And then that makes us just go, hey, I'm feeling stronger. And it has
Yeah,
a mental emotional effect as well. It's awesome.
I love it. Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, when I started CrossFit, and, unfortunately, CrossFit's just not what feels good for my body these days anymore.
I know.
It's hard on,
Same. Yeah,
uh,
it's hard. There's a lot of impact.
but the strength training, you just feel really empowered and accomplished when you can do something like that. So,
Yeah.
I'm all about it. I think that's when you compare like any sort of fitness and activity and movement with, as long as you're supporting your mental health as well, like sky's the limit. I feel like it's just so great.
Yeah, and it's so good for our bones, and osteopenia and osteoporosis is such a big concern with cancer treatments.
Mhm.
And, strength training, resistance training, that's the key. You want to build strong bones, lift heavy weights.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep. There's a
yeah.
chapter in the menopause book. It's just called Lift Heavy Shit. So,
Is it? I
yeah.
love it. What menopause book is that?
It's called Next Level by Stacey Sims. And so it's just, obviously it's not focused toward, women who have, it's geared towards women who have gone into menopause naturally, right? Not necessarily women who have been medically
Chemically induced. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's just, I thought it was really interesting to read about um, all of the impacts that lower, your decreased estrogen and progesterone and all of that, like everything, like it lowers your serotonin and your melatonin. And I was just like, my mind has just been blown reading it. And actually, I was in our community, even though the nonprofit is gone, the community of the 120 plus women, we stayed together, right? We're still together on a Facebook group, and we add new women from time to time. So we still get to support women who are, in treatment or just out of treatment. And I had a girl, a good friend, and she's, really worried, right? She's worried right now because she just started tamoxifen, and she's got really bad headaches, and weird sensations. And but she's been in chemically induced menopause for almost a year now. And so I just was like, here's some stuff that I'm reading. Like, absolutely get checked out. We all want to be better safe than sorry, but you just don't know. You don't really know what you're in for sometimes until you start reading up on it.
Mhm.
Crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And I think it's something important, and I'll put a link to that book in the show notes. So I think any
Yeah.
information we can get on supporting, because menopause can be so uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And when it is chemically induced like that, it tends to be more severe and last longer than when we go into it naturally. So I think the more information, the better we can get when it comes to supporting how we feel. So and
Yeah.
important, I think, especially when it comes to cancer and cancer treatment and recurrence, is that intense hot flashes disrupt your sleep. And sleep is
Hmm.
so important for a healthy metabolism. And when we don't sleep, just one night of poor sleep can throw off our glucose levels for days. It is crazy the impact that not honoring your circadian rhythm has. And so it's really important to dig into this and understand nighttime routines and things you can do to kind of counteract those intense, sweats and night sweats and hot flashes and things so that you can get some quality sleep, which helps your body heal.
Yeah. And see, that's kind of what I love about the concept of having all of our coaches be cancer survivors and thrivers, right? Because you get it. And
Yeah.
so there's just something so wonderful about being able to guide women through that, post treatment, in treatment. Like, it's so great. So I love that you're all here, and I love that everybody was so eager to jump in and help and willing to just work with us. So it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm very, very excited, and I'm excited for everybody to learn more about your
Yeah.
organization and support you and support your growth in it because it's an amazing cause and I love it.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much I know you're a busy lady, so thanks for being on here and sharing this information with everybody. And I know you're going to be tremendously successful. Thanks,
Oh,
Ashley.
we appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
All right. I hope that you got some great information out of that show. And if you are either someone who knows you could use coaching, support, mental, emotional, just encouragement and inspiration, please go to the show notes that you'll find at thebreastcancerrecoverycoach.com/292 and apply for funding from Rebuild to Be. If you are someone who's in the position to give to this amazing organization so that they can give to more women who need this kind of support, please go to the links and offer that support. I know it's such a gift to be able to be in that position to give to others and be able to support those who really are in need and really want to do something for themselves. So, either way, whatever side of the spectrum you fall on or somewhere in between, everything is appreciated. And I'm so happy that this group of amazing women is out there providing support and that all of you are a community who can find support and offer support to each other. It's a beautiful thing. All right, my friends, I will talk to you again soon. Until then, be good to yourself. Take care.